Senior was sacked after Chelsea lost 3-0 to Brighton on Tuesday, and just 5 days later, under caretaker manager Callum McFarlane, they beat Leeds 1-0 in the FA Cup semi-final. So when asked whether Chelsea's players had down tools, Rooney said this: yeah, 100%. I've been there as a player when managers were being sacked. I felt like I'm part of the problem. I was watching Chelsea players and I didn't seem to see that in them. Tim, do you think Rooney's right?
The way I did that game against Brighton, the way they played against Brighton, from the evidence what I saw, Wayne is absolutely right. But they're not only down tools on the manager, they're down tools on the fans, and they're down tools on their teammates. It's a collective. Can't just turn up when you want and play when you want. Ultimately, it's the manager whose head's on the block, and he will pay the price. They've done it to Potter, they've done it to Pochettino, they've done it to a lesser degree to Maresca, and now to Liam Rosenior. So, lack of consistency in their performances was the key. Everyone points the finger at it's because they're young. I don't buy into that. I think there's a lot to be said for a lot of experience around, but not necessarily old players, just experienced players, but also leaders. I look at someone who played against him yesterday, and I've watched him all season. Ethan Ampadu, who's a player who wasn't a young boy at Chelsea. That to me is a leader. That to me is a player, no matter what the circumstances, what the environment's like, where they are in the league, he will give everything every single game. Whether he has the ability of Enzo Fernandez, for an example, is obviously debatable. But as a manager, do you look at him and you feel like he's more reliable than a lot of them Chelsea players? 100%. You'd hang your hat on that. I would take, if you offered me ability or desire and determination, I would take desire and determination and character over ability every day of the week. If you can marry them two up, like Wayne Rooney had, then you've got a serious player on your hands.
If they were just wanting to get Liam Rosenior sacked, they've really shot themselves in the foot, because they're now probably going to miss out on Champions League football. And they all want to be in the Champions League, surely.
But it's not only Liam, there's 3 other managers previous to him. The problem they've at Chelsea, and they've got too many people who don't know football making football decisions. And when the player can leapfrog the manager and go straight and speak to the sporting directors or the owners of the club, then ultimately the manager has no control. He can't manage. He cannot have the authority what he wants. Because when he's talking to them and he has to give them the bad news, they're just looking at him and saying, we'll get you out of here anyway. You're not going to be here. We'll just get someone else in. Because if I've got a grievance, I'm just going above you, straight to the owners, straight to the sporting directors and having a conversation with them. How it should work is you should say, as soon as they leapfrog and they go straight to the owner or the manager, then they should, sporting director, they should then say, have you spoke to the manager? The manager should have the control to control the football inside of the footballing environment. Unfortunately, and not only Chelsea, at loads of clubs now, they don't have that. Ultimately, you know what it does? Gives the manager zero control over the players. And then they do whatever they want, when they want, on the pitch.
Chelsea can argue that they made the change and in the very short term it's worked, because they did win yesterday and are through to the FA Cup final with Callum McFarlane in charge.
They won because Sanchez makes 2 fantastic saves, by the way. It was a nothing game. It was nothing in it, I mean. Yes, they won. Credit to them. Let's hope them players who turned up yesterday want to turn up in the cup final, because you never know. You can't rely on them, whether they want to turn up, whether they don't. Possibly because there's a cup final, it's a showpiece, they don't want to turn up. Man City score after 5 minutes. There might be a few of them not wanting to turn up too much, and then they go 2 or 3-0 down. Are they playing the same way then? I would say, I've watched them all season, a lot of them would want to come off the pitch, or not want to run around as much and want to protect themselves for the World Cup, which is coming up. They're not playing for that badge. 100%, not 100% all of the time playing for the badge. They're not. If they was, they would be in a better league position than where they are at the moment, and you would not get performances like we saw at the Amex. absolute disgrace that was.
Right, well, let's get the Chelsea fan view now. Craig Dixon joins us now. Craig, do you think that your players down tools under Rossini?
Yes, is the short answer. So whether they've done it consciously or not, I don't know. Obviously, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes and what's gone on there. But the performances, I said on Tuesday while the game was happening, I said these players are not playing for the manager anymore, and to have any hope of winning on Sunday, unfortunately, they're going to have to make the change because they're not playing. They're not playing for him for whatever reason, which is clearly unacceptable.
But they're not playing for you also. You pay your money. You expect them, when they put a Chelsea shirt on, to give everything all of the time, wouldn't you?
Exactly that, yeah. And again, it's you know, you sort of try and think, okay, they're only human, things like this. And I think, you know, if you have issues at work or whatever, maybe, you know, trying to sort of look at it from their perspective. But as you say, you know, they're paid enough to represent the club, you know, in a very privileged position that they are, and we know as fans, obviously, if we had, you know, an ounce of their ability and opportunities, then we'd give absolutely everything. So yeah, it's not great, unfortunately, as you've alluded to, Tim, already. You know, we've become used to it at the club, and I think back in the old days, maybe, and I say the old days, you know, sort of the 20 years ago. Perhaps there was that strong dressing room culture with the players, and sometimes, you know, that counted against managers. But at the same time, I think within that there was that leadership and that experience to say, look, you know, we might not get on with him, we might not be happy with this, but we can park that. You know, and when they, at least when they go out on the pitch, you can see that you know, the playing, like say, playing for the badge, playing for their own pride. Even if they're not keen on the man in the dugout.
Well, when you had that success, which you've had loads of success, when Mourinho was there, do you think Mourinho would, from the hierarchy, whether it was Roman or Mourinho, whoever it was, would not have allowed Mourinho to manage? And Conte as well, Gus Hiddink as well. Them guys were allowed to get on with it and be a manager.
Exactly, yeah, and I think this is what we've lost. I think we've gone so far now into the point of, you know, there's quotes sort of flying around, and again, you know, you never know sort of really what to believe, but it feels like the club actually don't feel like the head coach is, as they call it now. It's not even manager anymore, is it? They don't feel like that role is the biggest in the club. We all know in football, every single successful manager, you name them, Guardiola, Klopp, Ferguson, Wenger, etc. They're the main men, aren't they? You know, Emery, even at Villa at the moment, you know, if you give those top managers the chance to kind of take control of the whole football side, success normally follows, and you see strong dressing rooms, players, you know, won't give this kind of performance no matter what happens, and unfortunately it feels like the whole setup now doesn't actually enable a strong manager, which is why I worry about some of the names linked with that they won't come, or if they do, it'll be too combustible, and like you say, they'll fall out with the hierarchy again.
How encouraged were you with yesterday's performance, at least?
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting it, and you know, once everything's happened, I think you park that disappointment, and yeah, happy with the display. Obviously, the result was the most important thing as well, and we ground it out a little bit. It wasn't exactly a sparkling performance, but yeah, we've got a one-off chance now to win a trophy, which is obviously huge.
How much of an overhaul do you need in the summer? You're obviously looking for a new manager. I'm looking at your squad. It is a big squad. I look at the amount of players you've got out on loan as well who are going to come back in. How big is this summer, not just for the manager, but for the players as well?
Yeah, so big. And again, with, you know, whether we have, I mean, it doesn't look like Champions League football's coming, whether we're going to have European football or not, I don't know. And obviously that's going to help with recruitment. They're talking about self-reflection. Does that mean that we're going to go and try and add a bit of experience? But as you say, there's a lot of players in that squad that I think is you know, their time's come. And so there's going to be another high turnover, which we're seeing season after season at the moment. So, yeah, I think it's a big summer. We really need to get it right.
Thank you, Craig.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
Mate.